fuel choice that even rivals can agree on? Now that's worth the hype. Cheaper, cleaner, and homegrown. Pump it up with unleaded 88.
Sebastian Maniscalco.
My wife and I went to go see Hamilton on Broadway.
It Ain't Right Tour 2024.
Oh my God, it is amazing. We saw it. Oh, it changed me it changed me. Now, as soon as I hear that, I'm like, I ain't gonna like this.
Sebastian Maniscalco, live on stage in Des Moines, Wells Fargo Arena, December 15th, 2024. Get tickets now at livenation.com. For more, visit sebastianlive.com.
Murph and Andy, proudly presented by Ramsey Subaru and BMW of Des Moines. Live and on demand across Iowa everywhere. From the Channel Seed Studios, this is Murph and Andy. Murph and Andy, connected by cellular advantage.
It is Murph and Andy live on Iowa Everywhere alongside Andy Fales and AD. I'm Keith Murphy. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Murph. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling good. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. Think we have a good show planned. Let's get right into it. It's October 16th. It is show number 20.
20, up to around 20.
Out of fingers, out of toes. Will I make it to 21? Not sure. It's been called into question. Today's sports and more. We have the Cyclones and Cyclones making history, and that is annoying a lot of Hawkeye fans. A dribbling Cy makes his triumphant return, and whistling at the movies. Andy, you're good at whistling. I'm a really poor whistler. I sound like a guy who just ate saltine crackers and tried to whistle. I can't whistle very well. Give us just an impromptu whistle.
Yeah. I can whistle like blowing in and out. Yep.
But you can also do the I can't do.
That's the thing I've never been able to do.
Can't quite do it right now.
Every once in a while, like a blade of grass, I can get that going.
Jenny taught me how to do the blade of grass thing, but the fingers makes no sense to me, and I'm a bad whistler, even when it's the old. But we'll get to that in the movies. Right now, high or low since the last show. And High or Low is brought to you by Wealth Charter Retirement Planning and Tax in Ankeny. Thank you to Tim Hawkins and the crew. If you need help with your investments, retirement planning, or taxes, let Tim and the gang help you. They will help you. Simplify your finances. Andy, high or low?
Well, I'm going high. I've had the best tomato season that I've had in a long time.
More on the tomatoes?
Yeah, and I was really worried they were all going to get killed last night.
I'm ready for these tomatoes to die. You are talking about them too much. You're like a grandparent who keeps talking about his grandkid.
Oh no, it's just been such. I can make the best salsa and tomato sauce, and
you're working this into the newscasts. I mean, you were talking about. I think now at one point you said like 20 feet of tomato plants. I think
I have one that's 2 stories tall. I just kept. I have a ladder that it just kept growing. I want to see how tall it would go. It's reached all the way up to the 2nd floor. So they're kind of right up against the house. And while like the melons and stuff did die out in the yard, those are like way out in the yard. Those froze last night. I guess just kind of the radiant heat of the house kept the tomatoes, peppers, basil all alive. So I get an extended season. And because it doesn't look like we're going to get any more frost for a while. So, yes, I get more of that awesome food. I mean, I hate it at the end of the season because I literally do not eat another fresh tomato until the following summer because supermarket tomatoes just suck. They're terrible. They're trucked in from a really long way away. They're just nowhere close to what the homegrown stuff is. So I hate same with sweet corn. I don't eat that stuff. If it's trucked in from out of state, I want Iowa sweet corn only. I eat it all I can, and then it's done for the season. But my season is extended a little bit longer, but I was worried. I did like wrap it all up last night. I had some garbage bags on it. But I think it was the house that ultimately saved it, just being so close.
My high is going to be when your tomatoes die, I think.
I'm dick.
So sick and
Don't
tired
be a dick
of these tomatoes.
God, what are you talking? Right. It's no sweat off your back.
I'm just tired of hearing about them. My low is candy corn discipline. I don't even like candy corn, but Jenny put candy corn out in a bowl on the counter in our little island near the kitchen. And I just started grazing yesterday before work. When I came home for dinner, I just kept grabbing candy corn, which again, I don't like. I like it better if it's mixed with peanuts, but this is just candy corn. Don't like it, but it's not out of sight, so it's not out of mind. And by the end of the night, I looked down and I had eaten the entire bowl of candy corn,
geez.
which I don't like. That's my low.
I feel like I've heard you grouse many times about people just like subliminally eating. When a bag of food is in front of you, you just eat even though you're not hungry. And
Right.
you just did that.
I just did that. Let's get the buzz on Murph and Andy.
The Buzz. Brought to you by Logier Heating and Cooling.
Thank you, Logier Heating and Cooling. Just sent me this bill of everything that they did when they were here. My man Brennan stopped by. And I mean, this guy was thorough. Service and check the furnace, gas and electrical, burners and igniter, flame sensor, pressure switches, gas valve, fans and motors. I don't even know what any of this means. Furnace filter, temperatures, exhaust, intake, water heater burners. I don't know. That means something to somebody, but I just know it's good to get checked out.
You gotta trust them.
It's cold. It's getting cold. It's going to warm back up, but we had that first hard freeze. Does that mean those little peckerhead black bugs are done?
Not necessarily. I talked to the state entomologist up at Iowa State the other day, and he said it can take like 1 to 5 hard freezes to kill them all. They actually are beneficial bugs. They eat bad. They eat bad bugs when they're out in the field during the summer. But now the crops are in, or they're at least too dry for them to be able to use anymore. So they've come into the suburbs and the city. And they're kind of preying on us, but they don't inject you with any poison or anything. They just bite, and it sucks. But yeah, they're called minute pirate bugs.
Minute pirate bugs, good name. All right, so the buzz today. Yesterday, I and I'm sure many others made note of history in the state of Iowa. 3 AP top 10 teams for the first time. Iowa State women's basketball ranked 8th, men's basketball 5th. Those are both preseason AP polls. And as we know, the Iowa State football team is currently number 9 in the AP poll. So presented this, put it out there, among other places, put it on my Facebook page where some people are watching us on YouTube right now through the Facebook feed. And Andy, this went nuts with several hundred responses and I don't know, so far like 700 shares via Facebook. And why did it go so nuts? What drove this to have hundreds of comments?
I smell Cyhawk.
You smell right. You smell correctly.
This is, and I feel like we need to take the opportunity to point out each time the pendulum swings over to the other side, because we promise people that it does,
and it does.
We cite examples of when it has in the past, and yet they still don't like to believe us because they live in the moment and they only see things from their perspective. So all of the Cyclone fans who are upset with us for talking about Caitlin Clark for so long, all of the Cyclone fans who were so upset with us in 2015, 2014,
yes, 2015 season into the 2016 January Bulls.
That undefeated Hawkeye season, all of the Cyclone fans that were so upset with us then and so sick of that.
Hawkeye
like
homers.
We were so obviously Hawkeye homers. Now they have nothing to say because this is just what's supposed to happen.
Cyclone homers now.
Yeah, and then the Hawkeye fans who just felt like we were doing what we were supposed to do when we were talking about Caitlin Clark and the 2015 Hawkeye football team. Now they are upset that we are talking so much about the Cyclones. Is that, do I have that? Am I in the ballpark?
Absolutely. And you don't get credit. You only get blame. Like the side only notices, the same in politics. You only notice the bias because of your own bias. And this isn't everybody. I saw some Hawkeye fans who I recognize to be Hawkeye fans just from their contributions and their posts, and some are people I actually know. And some of them posted, hey, this is really cool. It's cool for Iowa State. I'm a Hawkeye fan, but well done. So there are those fans out there. But for the most part, most of the posts are first trying to disprove the theory that this is the first time this has happened. So it starts out with some Hawkeye fans who post when the men's or women's basketball team and the football team and the wrestling team were in the top 10. Well, hang on. The AP doesn't rank wrestling teams for many different reasons, but among them, only one SEC team even wrestles. All the Big Ten, all the Pac-12 teams that just joined the Big Ten, they don't wrestle either. A lot of programs don't wrestle. So the AP doesn't rank national wrestling programs. That seems crazy in the state of Iowa, but that is the way it is.
Yeah, there are other entities that rank wrestling teams. There's no question about that, but we're talking about AP ranking.
Yeah, this is an AP poll. And the NWCA, which is that's the National Wrestling Coaches Association, and that's what the NCAA uses for wrestling. Those rankings will come out, and there's a good chance Iowa State then has 4 top 10 teams, but those rankings are not out yet. There might be some wrestling ranking out somewhere, but not the one that the NCAA uses as its standard. So that's how it begins, and there's the back and forth and all that. Well, then it turns to wrong. 2015, Iowa had a 3rd-ranked basketball team. The football team went to 3. The wrestling team, the women's basketball team. Well, again, it's at the same time. Well, wrong. 1986, at the same time, preseason men's basketball, preseason women's basketball, football team was ranked. This is all in mid-October. You can look it up. So, okay, we did look it up. Preseason polls back then didn't come out until mid-November because we've seen this slow creep of basketball into October. So by then, the Hawkeye football team had dropped out of the top 25 after a couple of losses. So Iowa wasn't ranked all 3 at the same time in those AP polls, but people continued to pile in. Then here come the men's cross country fans from Iowa State. Actually, it's 4 top 10 teams. The cross country team is currently ranked 4th. Great for them. That's good.
AP.
Understand you wanting to put the spotlight on the cross country team, but the thing says AP top 10 teams at the same time. It's the first time it's happened in Iowa. Then Andy, the next step is this doesn't mean anything. Polls don't mean a damn thing. It's where you finish. How many championships come with those rankings?
Yeah, you don't like the conversation, change the subject, right?
Did you care about the rankings when your teams were all in the top 10? It's so predictable and eye-rolling. And then, yes, Jenny got annoyed with somebody because she goes on there and somebody's like, Murphy, you make me sick. You're such a suck-up to the Cyclones. Wait, giving a factual post about some Iowa sports history on that day. You know how it goes.
So, but at that point, right there, didn't you say to yourself, okay, I'm giving too much time to social media?
Yes, and I do that too much, and I do that a lot. So quickie poll from WCI, pools and spas. AD?
When do polls matter? Always. Only at the end of the season. When my team looks good, or never.
The honest answer for most people is when my team looks good.
Yeah.
I think that's a good answer, though, because that's what polls, for the most part, are for. Yeah, they do have some practical, important applications that happen a few times a year, but it's to fuel conversation. It's to get people to click on the Associated Press's news sites. It's to keep, it's like the sports fan crowd is like the crowd at a concert that's bouncing one of those beach balls through the air. And you're just trying to keep the beach ball in the air because it's fun for everybody. And there's more going on. I mean, if we were only talking about the sports while the games were being played or on the weekends, it wouldn't be nearly as fun. I mean, this is what we do. We're sports fans.
And that's what they're mainly for, to spark debate and discussion, and beyond the practical purposes of it, it does end up mattering. And these days, you do understandably get a lot of Big 12 fans who feel like these polls are now completely biased to the SEC and to a lesser extent the Big Ten. But then the AP comes out with its men's basketball poll, and for the first time ever, 5 of the top 10 teams are from one conference, and it is the Big 12, and 3 of the top 5 are from the Big 12. So most people are frustrated or happy with the polls, as you said, as it reflects on their team. Here's a recap of the most recent time. This is a broadcasting recap of the most recent time Iowa State played a football team from the state of Florida.
The Cyclones weren't just a touchdown away from tying Florida State last night. They were even closer than that. Say a millimeter. You make the call. We've got 2 different angles here on Seneca Wallace's touchdown dive, or the touchdown dive that just fell short. Look here, it looks like his left foot does graze the out of bounds marker right there, and that's the call. If it touches that chalk, then the ball is out where it's out, at the half-yard marker, and that's where the officials marked it, where Seneca was stopped. The very next play short of the goal line, and Iowa State fell to the number 3 ranked Seminoles 38-31.
Andy Fales.
Nice pull, Murph. Where'd you find that?
Had a little help from a friend. Matt Van Winkle found that, and that is the...
How did he find it?
Well...
What, did he break into the building last night, go down to the dungeon?
Maybe. I mean, he probably still has a card key that works. Been a while, but
when was that?
That's cool.
What year was that? 2002? Oh,
okay,
man.
First of all, you look like you might have been stung by a bee on your left cheek, screen right.
Well,
little puffy, and,
I
and
mean,
your voice.
I'm making a facial expression there. First of all,
Yeah,
I am a little fatter. All right, yeah, I'm a little fat.
All right, have you reached puberty? What year was it? Were you 11, 12?
Was this? What year was this?
2002.
2002? Yeah, that was a long time ago, man.
Long time ago. So the only matchups that Iowa State has ever had in football with the state of Florida, a win over Florida State in Tallahassee in 1975, and then a loss to Florida State in 2002 at Arrowhead Stadium, what Cyclone fans now call the "he was in" game. And that game in 2002 featured the legendary Bobby Bowden.
Anybody can beat anybody nowadays.
Man, is this humble, good old boy shtick getting old? I gotta get this guy to crack. You're a gracious and a humble guy, but this is the number 3 team in the nation. You're gonna kill them tomorrow, aren't you? You're just gonna be.
Oh, you kidding me? What are you baiting me about, boy?
I just, just between you and me and the state of Iowa.
We will be out there trying to keep from getting killed. They'll have all the momentum. They'll have all the motives to beat us. What are we, favorites?
Yeah, big time favorite.
I don't like to be favorite. I'd rather be the underdog.
Well, you're not going to get that, though, you know.
Well, I'd still rather be the underdog. Dan's going to have a feast on that.
You care to take off your jacket, or you just want to go in? You look hot.
No, yeah, no, that's what I wore, so that's what I got to stay with.
All right, look, maybe you can debate how much I got out of these guys, but you can't debate this. I got them out of that sports coat, though it's like 128 degrees.
Oh, that is awesome.
My voice sounds really high.
It's just like so cool, though. Yeah. I know it frustrated a few of the reporters there, but it was
I think Randy
by far,
Peterson was getting pissed at me there. He used to get really annoyed at me.
It was by far the most entertaining and interesting thing Bowden said that whole time, and he was clearly enjoying it. He had a little twinkle in his eye. You try and bait me, boy. And it was just outstanding because by that point, Bowden, as we saw those couple of days, was kind of the CEO of Florida State football at that point. He wasn't really actively coaching the practice or anything, but he was great in an interview. And oh, by the way, Andy, he was more right than you were. That game came down to the final play.
Yeah, he was. And it sounds to me like he's kind of enjoying those questions. He kind of liked that. Maybe he was bored.
No doubt.
But, he was gracious then. I thought that was kind of fun.
It was fun.
But I just remember what he was doing up to that point. I mean, he was just like poor mouthing out his ass. He was just like, yeah, we're going to be lucky to be able to put double-digit points on the board here. This team's good, and they got basically a home game. These Cyclone fans just come right down the highway. And he was just totally poor mouthing, and we were like, "Oh God, come on!"
Dadgummit, I'm not even sure we can score on these boys. These are corn-fed Iowa boys.
That was such a fun atmosphere too.
It's great.
You know, that was before Arrowhead Stadium had been renovated. It holds fewer people now. It was just expansive, and you went in there and you're like, oh my God, you know, the Cyclone fans are going to get swallowed up in here. I don't think it was a sellout, but they really put a lot of fans in those seats.
Mostly Iowa State fans, of course, and that's a big
easily.
stadium.
Yeah,
easily.
absolutely.
There weren't that. You understand why there wouldn't be that many Florida State fans, but it was mostly Cyclone fans. It was a great night, and we had two angles on the touchdown because both you and Todd Bailey had your cameras up and shooting video. I can remember that's where we
were both shooting in the same end zone.
Yeah, shooting in the same end zone. You were right there. You had a couple different angles, and then that's where I did my stand-up, my on-camera bit right there where the question was he in or not in? And any Cyclone fan thinks he was in. The Jets acquired Devontae Adams, though former Cyclone and Urbandale star Allan Lazard is tied for the NFL lead in touchdown catches after pulling this one down
Here we
Monday
go.
Night Football.
Up into the air, into the end zone, and incomplete. Lazard had a shot. And now the other official saying touchdown. One said incomplete, the other says touchdown. He's got it.
The ruling on the field is a touchdown.
Good call. Touchdown Jets.
That's Joe Buck
hard
on
to
Monday
see.
Night Football, courtesy of ESPN. And you see 4 bills around Lazard, who's a big receiver, of course. And 2 things happen here, Andy. One is Aaron Rodgers is the best in NFL history at this Hail Mary pass. That's his 4th time Rodgers has done that. He seems to be able, this was a 62-yard throw, but he seems to be able to get the air under it in just such a way where if you have a talented, tall receiver like Lazard, he can go up and high point it, which is what Lazard does, and it was a catch. It was a touchdown.
He is one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the NFL at the soft touch pass. Sometimes that's a longer pass, but it's still when he puts air under it and kind of drops it in, his passes are so accurate. They're so accurate. And he did that a number of times in that game, passes of different distances. The way that he can always sort of finesse just the right amount of mustard onto the ball and drop it into his receivers over defenders, between defenders is uncanny.
The Cyclones unveiled new throwback basketball uniforms, and it created quite a stir in the Cyclone Nation. These are throwbacks to the 80s and 90s, the Johnny Orr era, and they are clean and crisp. This is
I have a hard time remembering what is a throwback basketball jersey and what's not with Iowa State, because many of the changes have been so subtle.
There's the key right there, dribbling Cy.
I recognize that as a throwback logo, but as far as the lettering and the colors go and the piping, I feel like if you had told me that they wore those 2 years ago, I'd believe you.
This is a good look, though. This is
they are. Yeah, they're sharp.
This is the best home uniform right here. This looks great. You could easily convince fans to wear these all the time or as much as possible. That's a great looking uniform. And Iowa State, to most of us, not all of us, most of us struggles in the basketball uniform department sometimes. The all gold look, liked by some, not liked by others. But I can't imagine anyone looking at this, especially with dribbling Cy there, and saying, oh, no, I don't like those. Go back to something else.
They've had a lot more luck with the basketball uniforms and settling in on classic looks than the football uniforms.
Big 12 Commissioner Brent Yormark was reportedly approached by the Live Tour to replace Greg Norman. And according to the Action Network HQ, the call lasted around a minute. Yormark is not interested at all, which I think our first instinct is to say, well, of course, why? He's got a good job.
How do you get on and off the phone in a minute?
I don't know.
Even with a telemarketer, I'm not sure I can get on and off in a minute.
You try, but they're trained to keep you talking. The telemarketers.
A minute? The Live Tour kept Yormark. Why did he even take the call?
Not interested. But you think, what could they possibly do to make him interested? Well, the same thing they did with all those golfers. They just
pay him money.
Yep, back up a pile of money
Brinks truck.
beyond your imagination. But he's not interested in that. A frustrated Jerry Jones, Cowboys owner and
I'm glad you're
GM,
playing this.
he takes it out on the two local radio hosts at FAN.
Now, if you think I'm interested on a damn phone call with you over a radio and sitting here and throwing all the good out with the dishwater, you have got to be smoking something over there this morning. I'm not. And I really don't, and I don't even want our listeners to listen to me, to talk about, this is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job.
Well, my job is to ask
why.
why.
A job, or I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man.
Jerry, we're trying to figure out why the team is.
I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. You're not going to figure out what the team is doing right or wrong. If you are, or any 5 or 10 like you, you need to come to this meeting I'm going to today. There are 32 teams here. You're geniuses.
Jerry,
okay? Y'all really think you're going to sit here with a microphone and tell me all of the things that I've done wrong and without going over the rights?
Well,
now, listen, we both know we're talking to a lot of great fans and a lot of great listeners. And I am very sorry for what happened out there Sunday. I'm sick about what happened Sunday. Now, I'm not talking to these yahoos on the end of this phone. I'm talking to you, the fans that are listening this morning.
It's a really bad look for Jerry Jones. He's frustrated, clearly, but he is threatening jobs there. I mean, that is what he's saying. And he kind of, just in case you misunderstood or you want to leave the door open for, well, maybe it's not quite what it sounds like. Maybe he's not threatening. He kind of doubles down on it and says, no, I'm serious. I'm serious.
I'm not kidding. Yeah.
I'm not kidding. That's right. He says, I'm not kidding. This is bullying. And one of the hosts later posted that if Jerry Jones is paying me, he owes me interest. I've never been paid anything. Now, the nuance of that is likely that the station is being paid a lot of extra money, or is paying there's money that's going in and out. It's probably not going directly to the host. They're probably just getting whatever they normally get to do a show. But he did post that he doesn't get paid any money. And Jones said, I'm paying you guys. And when I pay you guys, I don't expect questions like this. The host said they weren't being paid by Jerry Jones.
Is that that's a weekly show of his?
It is. Okay. He makes a weekly appearance on there, but it's just a frustrated look, but it's a bad look when somebody in a position of power just holds it over those hosts, like threatening to take away their jobs because they are asking him mild questions compared to what the average Cowboy fan would ask after losing all home games and just getting destroyed and embarrassed at home by the Lions.
And we didn't hear their questions, so we don't quite have the context there. But this is what always happens. I mean, it's easier to just shoot the messenger. It's also just a bad look because it shows that he knows. He's a very smart man. He knows that these guys, he probably knows that they're being fair deep down, and he knows it's their job, and he knows that if things were going right, they'd be his best friend and singing his praises. But this is the way it goes, and he's been in this business for a really long time. He understands that, you got to take the bad with the good. It is a bad look, but there are fans that listen to that are Cowboy fans that worked on. They took Jerry Jones aside and they, called and emailed and posted on social media angry things about the hosts. So that worked with some of the people. I can guarantee you that.
It did. The other side of that, though, is if they go in there and just try to spin everything, then the show loses all credibility
Sure.
and it's less likely somebody watches it. The surprising part here, and it probably goes to the level of frustration more than anything, because Jerry Jones does make himself available to answer questions after games, before games. He's pretty darn accessible for a guy who just turned 82 years old. But it probably speaks more to the frustration that he went this way, because he usually doesn't. And I think you're right. I do think he gets it. I don't think it can be said better than this is classic kill the messenger.
Yeah.
The frustration isn't really with the host. It's with the football team.
But I mean, the Cowboys being the most popular team in the NFL, or arguably the most popular team in the NFL, it has been almost 30 years since they have been a legitimate power in the NFL. I mean, a legitimate power in the NFL. It has been almost 30 years. So that's a long time. We've seen an awful lot of pathetic franchises pull themselves up and go to Super Bowls in that time.
What former football power seems like it's been more of a drought? The Dallas Cowboys or the Nebraska Cornhuskers?
Well, I mean, in terms of years, it's been the Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys have been to the playoffs, and they've certainly had star players. But, I think the one that seems like it's farther gone is Nebraska, because, they existed in just a completely antiquated system long ago, where a team from a tiny market like that could succeed in that way. I don't think we really believe that they could ever get back to that level again.
No, and the Cowboys could.
Absolutely. They could do that in 2 years with the right moves.
You're watching or listening to Murph and Andy, and it's time now for Throwdowns.
Throwdowns. It's Throwdowns. Backed by Heartland Tire and Auto.
Hey,
Throw it down.
Yeah, there's our guy. You know who that is, don't you, Ed or Keith?
That's Kelly.
That's our man, Kelly.
That's Kelly. He was in our Christmas card this year.
Yeah. I realized the way I took that picture, it almost looks like Travis made a cardboard cutout of Kelly that just stands next to the tires. Doesn't it?
This is what Kelly uses when he needs a day off. He just puts the cardboard cutout by the tires and he goes to
looks
Adventureland.
like he's there. I walked in to take Kelly's picture. I hope they don't mind if I tell this story, but I walked in, I was like, is Kelly here? And the guy in the back goes, he's in the bathroom. He's been in there for a while. And I was like, dude, you can't. He's the manager. He's the boss. You can't say that.
Of course Kelly doesn't want you to tell this story.
And now you're saying it on the Murph and Andy show.
I think he was cleaning something, actually. I don't think he was using the bathroom, but he was in there for a while. And the guy just gave him up.
Gave him up.
Seems like they all get along really well there. And Kelly was laughing, but it was really funny. I went in and I was like, man, where is Kelly?
Woo!
I think he was cleaning the bathroom, but yeah, anyway, he eventually came out and took that picture. It's not a cutout.
Let's throw it down. Murph, Iowa State 6-0 with 4 home games, a neutral site game at Arrowhead, and a trip to Utah remaining. Which of the Cyclone games left on the schedule is the toughest?
Definitely at Utah. And I think Utah would have beaten Arizona State. I was rooting for Arizona State because my son goes there. But Utah stayed with Cam Rising way past the point that it was clear that he didn't have it, and he looked like a he looked like Deacon Hill out there. I mean, he couldn't complete any passes. He had a bad feel for the pocket, and it really cost Utah a chance to win that game. But he's out for the season now, so they'll put in a quarterback that can play, and they have a really talented team. They were ranked high to begin the season for a reason, and they've got a great home atmosphere there. Not a lot of options for entertainment in Utah on a Saturday. So I would pick that. I realize there's some other challenges here, but that's the one.
I have a hard time picking against that one. I want to say that the Kansas game is going to be tough because it's a little closer. Feel like if they beat Kansas, they'll really be rolling by the time that they get to Utah. But they still have to go to Utah, and they're not familiar with that atmosphere. There's not going to be 30,000 Cyclone fans that somehow get tickets and make the trip out to Utah. It's just going to be a really foreign atmosphere, and that's going to be a really good team. So that's going to be the toughest. But don't sleep on that final game with Kansas State.
That's
either
where I was going.
I mean, Kansas State they are one of those kryptonite teams for Iowa State. I mean, it didn't look like it last year, but
that was that weird game last year in the blizzard.
It was so weird in the snow and everything.
Couldn't be tackled.
Yeah, but I mean, when they come to Jack Tri Stadium, they're good.
Snowshoe Sama.
Sorry to Deacon Hill, who's catching strays randomly on this day. All right, Andy, speaking of Cam Rising, Utah quarterback is out for the season. His near 7-year college career has been plagued by injuries. Would you have a problem with Cam Rising getting an 8th season of eligibility?
A problem with it? I would roll my eyes. Is that a problem? I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if rolling my eyes is equals a problem, I do think that this is still just a ridiculous era that we're in. I mean, I'm sorry. They should not get 7 and 8 years or 6 years.
He's only played 2 full seasons.
So what?
He graduated high school in 2018.
It's ridiculous. A problem like in this will keep me up or make me mad? No. But it's so silly, and I realize this has become a professional sport, but you still have stuff like Drew Ott or Stephanie Suarez that were denied legitimate reasons to play another season, continuing even years later to frustrate their coaches that happened. And now 8 seasons, there's a Miami tight end who also has had a lot of injuries, but he's in his 9th season. I think they've got to get to a point where it's like you have 5 seasons, you have 5 years to play 4 or something like that, where you're accounting for injuries and things that can happen, but you don't leave it open-ended. I mean, we're gonna have doctors out there playing soon.
All right, Andy. No, rather Murph. I'm sorry, I'm confused as to which way I'm going here. Murph.
Just go the way you want.
All right, we all had lunch together yesterday, and I had my mind set on what I wanted to get, but Andy ordered first, and he ordered the exact same thing. Do you hesitate, Murph, to order the same thing as someone else at your table?
I do a little bit. And they say that ordering a meal can be the difference between extroverts and introverts, that you can tell that an extrovert will just follow somebody else who's ordered at the table and go like, oh yeah, hamburger and fries. That sounds good. I'll have the same thing. Whereas an introvert has spent the whole time just thinking about their order and wanting to get it right, and then might actually be thrown off by somebody else ordering the same thing, because then it gets in their head, oh no, that's what I was going to order. Should I change? So I don't mind it. If it's Jenny, I like us to get 2 different things so we can each try each other's food. See who ordered better.
Oh, it depends on the restaurant and the situation and who you're with. My wife and I always try to get different things, and we eat off each other's plates. But if you haven't been there before and you're trying to get a feel for the restaurant, I mean, you got to order different things so that everybody can kind of share their feedback on a wider range of food. But I mean, if you're at some place and they've got just one of your favorite dishes in the city, it doesn't matter what anybody else orders. You gotta get your favorite thing, because I mean, going to a restaurant is expensive. It's special. It's it's out of your way. You want to leave feeling like you got something you like.
Was it weirder? Would it have been weirder for me to order the same thing, or for me to order something different and then ask for a bite of your food? That's Throwdowns.
That's funny.
All right. Confluence is the official beer of Murph and Andy.
Oh, yeah. There you go. See, I still think that guy's spilling
I think there might be a little spillage there. I didn't hear it before, but I've got it now. Let's get some more on Murph and Andy here on a Wednesday.
But wait, there's more from Either Or Eatery and Patio.
Or Eatery and Patio. Either Or is located at 6222 Grand Avenue. And again, the patio has just been bumping over there, and they have got really wonderful handmade food that comes along with top shelf cocktails. You got to give it a try this week. Okay, the U.S. Federal Trade Commission adopted a final rule this morning, that requires businesses to make it as easy to cancel subscriptions and memberships as it is to sign up for them. It's
Yes!
Click
Yes!
to cancel rule. I like this FTC under Biden. They've done some good things. They've been trying to do more good things. So it is the agency's last major rulemaking before the November 5th election. So the click to cancel rule requires retailers, gyms, other businesses to get consumers' consent for subscriptions, auto renewals, and free trials that convert to paid memberships. I've gotten suckered into those many times.
This is my hesitation with starting something. Like sometimes somebody will send me an article to read out of a newspaper, and I'll say, I'm sorry, it's behind a paywall. It's not a newspaper I normally read. And they'll say, well, there's an offer there for like $1 for a month or something. I mean, it's worth $1. Yeah, but I'm going to have to subscribe in a way that I'm going to get auto enrolled, and it's and you forget about it, and you don't stop it. Next thing you know, there's a newspaper or some other service you're not using, but you're being billed for every month.
Yeah, and then you do go to cancel it, and you have to, click 5 deep into the website. They make the print as small as possible.
It's all the way your password.
Yeah,
make it as difficult as possible to cancel.
Yeah, they somehow your password doesn't work anymore, and you have to send in for a new one. It's a giant pain in the ass. Look, honestly, if they did make it as easy as join for $1 for a month, I think I would be. I might like it, and want to keep it.
Me too.
And feel better about keeping it that way. So I don't think that they hurt themselves that badly by doing it this way. So, I mean, the cancellation method must be at least as easy to use as the sign-up process. And of course, they make that sign-up process real easy, so they can make the cancellation process easy too. Bath & Body Works was forced to issue an apology and clear a shelf when customers pointed out that the packaging on a holiday candle they were selling strangely resembled white Ku Klux Klan hoods.
Oh.
Okay. So the company that produces the candle, I think you can look at this and probably tell what it actually is supposed to be. It's
you can, but it does. I do see the confusion that's happened. Yeah,
especially that one, the dude on the right there. The guy in the middle has a really big head, but it's supposed to be a close up of a snowflake, or like the little snowflake cutouts that you made as a kid. Steve says it's a KKK candle. Candle.
Well done, Steve.
Yeah, that was sharp. Good stuff, Steve. But yeah, so they pulled it off the shelves and they issued an apology. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the way it's clipped here, I can see that. I think maybe if you can see the bottom of the candle and see more of the snowflake, but yeah, it's clearly you don't want to make headlines that way.
No, but it's you would think it's a innocent mistake. No one thinks somebody was trying to slide the Klan by on a candle, right?
You think nobody thinks that?
Oh well, yeah.
On social media, somebody thinks that. I can guarantee
these are the same people that tried to make this into a Klan symbol.
No, that's a W. You're like, no.
What are you talking about? And meantime, like 80% of the NBA players that are doing this every time they hit a three are black, and I'm supposed to now see this as Klan. Stop being stupid, people. Yeah, right. Don't let them take things away from you.
You made that up, or you decided that's what it meant. Not, I don't have to do the same thing. All right, it's time for Tell Me Something Good. Everybody with a 401k, a Roth IRA, a Roth 401k, or any money in the stock market, you are in great shape right now. This week, the stock market hit yet another all-time high, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average closing above 43,000 for the first time ever. This was yesterday. It has hit 11 record highs this year. That is the most records set since 2013. And there are still 3.5 months left in the year. Could set more. We set 13 records in 1 year back in 1999 when the U.S. economy was in one of its best years ever, at one of its best points ever. The The replica of the Iron Throne used in Game of Thrones has sold at auction for $1.49 million.
That's a bargain.
It was a 6-minute bidding war. Again, it is a replica. It's not the real one that was used. It's a replica, and the replica is plastic. But it still went for that much money. Apparently, this whole auction was huge.
Yeah,
Thousands of people. What's that?
Not a bargain, as it turns
How
out.
disappointed would you be if you went over to somebody's house, they were like, check this out, I have the Iron Throne. You sat on it, and it's plastic.
I'd be really disappointed. Yeah, I think a lot of times you probably don't want to see the movie magic. You just want to believe it.
Well, no, apparently the one in the movie they really did make out of metal.
But this was just sold.
This was a
is
replica.
Just the replica.
It's just a replica.
And it's still more than $1 million.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Thousands of people bid on costumes, props, and more. And in all, they spent over $21 million on Game of Thrones stuff. Wow. Speaking of rich, Taylor Swift is now the richest female musician in the world. She is worth $1.6 billion.
Goodness.
Combine up all of her assets.
She finally made the NFL popular, so that's a big deal.
She's helped. She's brought a new audience. She does still trail Jay-Z, though, who is the richest male musician, and he is worth $2.5 billion. So she's a long
Is that
way.
a joint account, though? Is he worth $2.5 billion by himself,
I think
or does Beyonce get folded into that?
I think it's by himself.
Oh my
by
goodness.
himself. She just passed Rihanna, who's like worth, which that's I wouldn't have guessed that, but she's worth like $1.4
She's got
billion.
like fashion and makeup brands and things like that.
Apparently, Taylor Swift has a bunch of real estate, which is smart.
Probably
that's
an
worth,
island.
Yeah, which is worth a big chunk of her fortune. All right, man, I want this pennant. I saw this on Facebook Marketplace. Look at this. It's like a giant. This person is I don't know who this is. They've got these old Drake pennants. Look at how big that one is. I want that, but you know what? It's $450. The guy wants for it. $450. I don't know that he's going to get that.
That must have been one that was up at the, what would have been Vets Auditorium at the time, or in the Bell Center. That looks old.
Wouldn't have been in the. I don't think the Bell Center would have been there. That would have been like the Field House or something. But
Field House, yeah,
it definitely looks old.
Looks old.
Don't you wonder if this was stolen?
I think it
If
was.
this is
I
hot.
Don't know.
That's a hot Drake pennant. $450. I mean, I would give him $50. Is that insulting? An insulting offer?
No. Let's find out what the market is for this. He may be contacting us by tomorrow going, I'll take the $50.
First of all, I don't think I've got room for it, but that's a sweet pennant. All right, the Tiger King, Joe Exotic. Remember him? He is optimistic about being released from prison next year, with his attorney confident in new evidence that could lead to a retrial and immediate release. I think I've heard that before. Joe was imprisoned for his involvement in a 2017 murder for hire plot against Carol Baskin. We remember how he felt about her. If released, Joe apparently plans to pursue higher education and academia, leveraging his expertise on tigers to give lectures. Now, as a reminder, here's a clip of Joe Exotic's speaking skills.
Guess what, motherfucker? Even the DNA that Carol sent down there, not one of them was related.
We clipped
Could be quite a seminar.
Can we play that one more time? Try not to clip the guess what.
Guess what, motherfucker?
Oh,
Even
man.
the DNA that Carol sent down there, not one of them was related. Guess what, motherfucker?
There you go.
Even the
You got it.
DNA that Carol sent down there,
all
not
right,
one of
all
them
right.
was related.
Yeah, even the lion is tired, or tiger, whatever that is. Lion.
I think that's a liger. He was like
that's a liger?
crossbreeding him, yeah, back there in his backyard. 37 years ago today, baby Jessica was rescued from a well in Midland, Texas. You remember this story, don't you, Murph?
Huge deal.
An 18-month-old girl was playing at her aunt's house in the backyard. She fell into this well. very small well pipe, fell 22 feet below the surface and was stuck in the pipe with her foot above her forehead. So CNN covered the event and the entire world tuned in. Enlisting the help of local oil drillers, officials hoped to free her quickly. Jessica McClure was her full name, is now her maiden name. But they then discovered that the well was surrounded by rock. They just kept running into complications. The rescuers' jackhammers were also inadequate. They were designed for downward rather than horizontal drilling. A mining engineer eventually arrived to help supervise and coordinate the rescue effort, and a relatively new technology called water jet cutting was employed to cut through the rock. So 45 hours after Jessica had fallen into the well, the adjacent shaft and cross tunnel were complete. During the drilling, rescuers said that they could hear Jessica humming and singing Winnie the Pooh. A roofing contractor by the name of Ron Short volunteered to go down the shaft. He had been born without collarbones and could collapse his shoulders to work in tight confines. So the team considered his offer, but ultimately used EMT paramedic Robert O'Donnell to go down the shaft, inched his way into the tunnel, and rescued baby Jessica, pulled her out to the surface. I think everybody cheered. President Reagan called the scene. It was like a gigantic celebration there. She's now a grown woman, has kids of her own. I was looking at pictures of her today. But I can remember the whole country being tuned in.
It was riveting.
To that, yeah, it was amazing. Well, we'll close with this. A Chinese zoo has done it again. From the country that brought you dogs painted to look like pandas, a Chinese aquarium opened last week, telling the public that they had a whale shark on display.
Oh, no.
This is a huge deal because whale sharks are the largest fishes on Earth. They are up to 60 feet long. And so, for comparison, they were talking about Jaws, the shark in Jaws, the great white being a 20-foot shark. So they can get 3 times as big as Jaws.
Okay.
And they are extremely difficult to keep in captivity. As a matter of fact, there are only a few of them in captivity. The Georgia Aquarium actually keeps 2 smaller whale sharks in a 6.3 million gallon aquarium. Incredible. But they said that they had one of these in this aquarium in China. People paid $40 to get in. The moment they get in and start looking at this whale shark, Murph, they're like, that is not a real fish. It turns out it's a robotic whale shark. They could see the gaps. First of all, that looks like a Lego shark.
It's an animatronic fish.
Yeah, but they didn't tell anybody that. They just said whale shark. So people are all pissed again. It's probably the same people that paid to see those damn dogs painted like
I don't
pandas.
think this is as egregious as the dogs that were painted like pandas.
This is a mechanical fake shark, and it's swimming around with real fish.
I get it, but painting the dogs, there's just something
that was funny,
humiliating.
Those
about
actually looked a lot like pandas, but then they started barking, and everybody knew it wasn't. One of them lifted his leg on a tree, took a whiz. That's your more, everyone.
Thank you, Andy. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Mr. Movie.
It's time to go to the movies with Mr. Movie, Mike Woody, presented by P&P Small Engines.
There he is, Mr. Movie. P&P Small Engine, snowblower tune-ups, get a leaf blower. Don't wait. Go see our friends at P&P Small Engine. How are you doing, Mr. Movie?
There's a neighbor mowing across the street.
Right now?
I peeked out. I thought maybe it was Jeff on one of his little contraptions, but it's not.
Well, that's good. How are you doing?
John Deere. So it didn't. I'm doing
No, he
great.
doesn't have John Deere.
I saw you up on the big screen. I went to see Saturday Night, which is a movie.
Yes,
and I know you're reviewing it coming up here. You look good. I like those. I like your appearance up on the big screen.
That was a very uncomfortable thing for me to do.
No, you do a good job with it. We were at Copper Creek at the Fridley Theaters there this week, and you are on the screen. Let's get to the out-of-the-box topic for Mr. Movie this week and movie lovers who are out there. Whistling in a movie. I'll start. Mine is kind of part of the score, but it is in the movie and the trilogy over and over and over again. It's The Man with No Name and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That is iconic and familiar. There are young people out there that know that just because of all the other places it's been played, all the other movies that have imitated that famous score, the whistle. And Mike, I'm right, aren't I, that it continues through all three movies? My dad watched this trilogy over and over again. I feel like the score did go through Fistful of Dollars.
There's no way they're going to change that score. It was so popular.
Yeah, it was incredible. Also, from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, this is a term now that gets used, I guess the power of threes, but like you could see it in politics, you could see it in a sports summary, coverage of a football team. Here's the good, the bad, and the ugly from the game, that kind of thing. It really has stood the test of time.
Yes, it
Andy,
has.
what do you have with a whistle?
Well, I'm wondering how much of this we can play without YouTube flagging us too, but
not much.
We're counting on everybody to just know which song we're talking about, okay? But this one is funny. It popped into my head the other day because we were talking about 1938, the last time the Cyclones had an open to their football season this strong. 1938, the top movie in America was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and you can't say Snow White without Whistle While You Work.
Just whistle while you work.
Oh,
better stop it there.
That's an earworm. Yeah. Oh, that'll be with you the rest of the day.
Yeah, don't mess with the Disney people.
Don't mess with the Disney people.
I will say every millennial right now is thinking about the Yin Yang twins.
Whistle while you work.
Whistle while
They
you
were at
twerk,
the
baby.
state fair. One of my
They
favorite things to
sexualized
think
Snow
about.
White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah, that's what
Maybe.
they do.
Maybe. Mr. Movie, whistling. What do you have from a movie?
I'm gonna now. This was not even. I wasn't even born yet when this movie came out. Bridge on the River Kwai, 1957, and the British POWs couldn't sing, so they would walk past the Japanese people and whistle.
Ooh.
Also really
That's
familiar.
A great one.
Yeah.
That's a good pick.
That is a good pick. That's a great movie, too. I haven't seen that.
It is a
in
great movie.
30 or 40 years. Did that win Best Picture?
I believe it did.
I would think that it did.
AD,
what-
Alec Guinness there.
Yeah, Alec Guinness. It's hard to follow a movie that serious, AD, but you're the guy who can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I went with Me, Myself, and Irene.
Oh, God.
Jim Carrey has two personalities that are very different. One of my favorite things about Farrelly Brothers is they can inject comedy into scenes that are like touching or sad on the other side. So here's Jim Carrey. He's having a dark moment, but he's got a nose whistle because of some bad plastic surgery. And he's just can't
The
stop
whistle
whistling
nose.
on the nose.
Yeah, Andy, you can do a whistle nose, can't you?
It just said,
That's not from your nose. Good choice, AD.
oh, it's not from my nose. It sounds like it was better
I
on radio.
know.
All right. Now we got this camera here.
I
Some
get
of that
it.
stuff doesn't work.
Weekend box office, Terrifier 3 made $18 million. The Wild Robot was second, and Joker 2. How do you pronounce it?
TW.
Only I do.
Oh, dude.
Three, I do.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely tanking and will be streaming in just a couple of weeks.
And by
Let's
the
get
way,
to-
I gave it an A.
I know.
You can't wait for it to stream. You can watch it again.
Yeah.
Mrs. Movie hated it.
She was not a fan. That is correct.
Yeah, I think she's more with the populace on this, but it's clearly a polarizing, daring movie. Reviews will start with Saturday Night, which takes place 49 years ago this past weekend, when the first episode of Saturday Night Live is about to start. It's never been on before. There's never been anything like it on television. And this movie captures the final 90 minutes right up until the first sketch that starts SNL. And this is probably not going to reach an audience. I don't think there's a big audience for this movie, but I went and I enjoyed it.
I thought it was a lot of fun. I really did. I was stressed out during the entire film. Now, you work in live television, so you can probably deal with this a little bit. I was so nervous. I mean, they were literally standing there with their finger on the button to put on, was it a Johnny Carson rerun?
A Carson rerun, yeah. This was set up to fail, as the movie and the book made clear. This was supposed to fail and then give Johnny Carson more of what he wanted, which was more money and more power. But it ends up being so refreshingly different that it doesn't fail. But yet, my son Cade, who you know, Mr. Movie, he can get a little anxious sometimes. And he said, totally different movie, but it had a little bit of that Uncut Gemstones, or what's the name of the Adam Sandler movie that makes people anxious? Uncut Gems. Uncut Gems. He said it gave him a little bit of that feeling because it is just this pulsating drum the whole time that's kind of like a clock ticking.
Yeah. And, you know, there's nobody in the cast you will know. And yet this cast does a great job, and they all really eerily resemble the people they're playing.
George Carlin, too.
And Belushi. Wow. That guy was really good.
I think that's the way you have to. I think that's the way you have to go on a movie like that, where you have.
Yeah.
I mean, many of the people they're playing are some of the most recognizable people, in American television history, and so if you get some star to play them, it's hard to see the character through the star.
Yeah.
In that case, when one star plays another star, it's always kind of tough on me. So I kind of like going that way, where you have someone that's unknown playing someone that's highly known.
Yeah. The guy who plays Dan Aykroyd, it was bothering me in the movie. I was like, I kind of, the mustache and the hair. And it's like, God, I feel like I know this guy, but I can't put it together. Well, it's because in his teens, he was the star of The Maze Runner. But, now he's in his 20s, but he was the star. And I took the kids to see those Maze Runner movies, and they were pretty good. But I would say that, what's your grade, Mr. Movie?
I think it's a solid B+.
I agree.
I thought it was really good.
Yep, I agree. That's right where we were too, and it moves along at a crisp pace. There's not a boring second in it. So let's get to Average Joe.
Average Joe. Now, we're all familiar with this story, whether you know about it or not. This is the football coach, ex-Marine. He's recruited to come out and help them coach the football team, and he goes out after the game's over, kneels at half court. Kneels in the middle of the field and says a prayer of thanks to God for, nobody getting hurt and, whatever. Well, then the kids come out at a certain point and say, we'd like to do that with you as well. And then we've got court action and, they ended up in the Supreme Court of the United States to decide whether it was okay for this guy and his team to kneel on the field and say a prayer. Only in our country.
Does it make clear whether he ever made it feel to the kids like they had to pray?
No,
or they
never,
had to deal?
Never. And he's very clear about that. I did not do it. And the interesting thing about the movie, again, not a lot of people that you're going to recognize, but they do turn and talk to you during the movie. They'll make an aside. They'll break that fourth wall and make an aside to you, the viewer. Yeah, you know what? I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. It was a very entertaining movie.
Every football team I ever played on prayed before and after games. Is it because it was at midfield, or have times just changed that much where you don't pray anymore?
Well, I suppose he could have done it on the sideline. They never explained why he does it in the middle of the field. He could have done it on the sideline and nobody would have even noticed. But I think he just went out there and he wanted to thank God for his life and the game. And, it was completely innocent. But the guy finally, I mean, he's a Marine, so he's going to stand up for his rights. And if we have to go to court, we're going to go to court.
So what grade do you give, the name of this again was Average Joe?
Average Joe gets also a B+. And
Okay,
which
so good week.
It's very much one of those religious films, but not in a heavy way.
These films often find a big audience, like
a
niche audience.
Yeah, they
that
do
does
have a
well.
loyal audience.
Yeah, there was quite a few people in there, and they showed like 20 minutes of trailers of upcoming religious films.
Kate and I were the only ones in the theater for Saturday night, so that probably says something about its upcoming box office. How about when you saw Saturday
were you?
night? We were at Copper Creek.
Okay, I was at the Copper Creek with Sue on Sunday night to see it. I think we were the only people in the complex.
Oh, geez. Okay, I don't like to hear that. Next week, We Live in Time, Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh as romantic dramas go. This one has good buzz.
It does have good buzz, and there was a story, online the other day that the director didn't call cut loud enough, so the steamy sex scene went a little longer than it was supposed to. But it does.
What are you implying, Mr. Movie?
It does look steamy. I mean, it looks good.
It looks real. This is what you're implying?
From what I can tell from the trailer, yes.
Smile 2, you talked about this on the screen when I was at the Fridley Theaters and how this is not for the whole family. This looks like a nightmare to me.
I didn't see Smile 1, so I didn't feel that I could judge Smile 2. It looks horrible.
Kate Blanchett.
Look this up on IMDb. Pull up the trailer and look at it. It looks like the craziest thing you've ever seen. I mean, it's a comedy, it's a drama, it's horror. It's wild.
All right, so Mr. Movie, what's your
Okay,
favorite?
Hold on. I've got one that you don't have.
Okay, yeah, let's hear it.
Goodrich. Have you seen the clips for Goodrich?
Yes, that's with Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton.
Looks like it could even be a family movie. It's about a guy. Michael Keaton plays a father who was not a very good father when he was younger, and now he has another kid late in life in his 60s, and now he is a really good father, and the daughter who grew up without a involved parent kind of resents that he suddenly has become a good father. Is that a good setup?
I'm sure there's some humor in it, but it looks like, one of those heartwarming dramas. I don't think it's going to be too heavy, but you never know with Michael Keaton. He can handle them all.
He's great.
Yeah.
So good.
The daughter is Mila Kunis.
Yes. Which is never a bad thing.
Yeah, I know. All right, you calm down, Mr. Movie. All right, thank you, Mr. Movie.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week.
Mr. Movie, presented by P&P Small Engines. All right, going to back up here and go back to our sponsor shout out of the week. It is Grimaldi's, and we've asked for fan photos, and we're going to pick one each Friday. It could be you and your family, your friends. It could be just you, just enjoying sporting events. Here's some examples of ones that have come in. And you send them to Murph_Andy at iowaeverywhere.com. So many of you have sent in photos, and we really appreciate it. We're going to pick one each Friday, and then that winner will get a $50 gift card to visit Grimaldi's and the Coal Brick Oven Pizzeria.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun game. Everybody's got something like this on their phone. And
people are just like ready to share too, right? Like,
and
you
it's
have,
fun
like,
to look
your
at other
favorite
people's
fan.
pictures.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
what I want most from this, because I've thought about it,
is Grimaldi's pizza.
Nope.
Oh,
that's second. Number one is to not be involved in the process of picking which fan photo to feature in any way.
I got you.
All right,
I
Andy,
think
would you
you're
like to
gonna
pick
be
the winner?
involved somewhat, right?
It'll
be on
Maybe each
your
week we
show.
should put two up and then make Murph pick live on the show.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh.
between
Don't
the two
do
of
that.
them.
Jeez. Time for the Andrew Downs audio drop of the day. We call it the AD Squared.
It's powered by Game Day Men's Health. Check them out in Ankeny, West Des Moines, North Liberty. I'm going Thursday tomorrow to get my tee shot. You can go in and get a free consultation. They're not going to pressure you or anything. Just go in, give some blood, and have a conversation. That's what I did a couple of weeks ago. I'm glad I did. West Virginia football 3-3 on the season after Saturday night's loss to Iowa State. And this week, Neil Brown, their head coach, sounded a little bit out of touch with the fact that fans really only want one thing: winning.
I get that they want to win, but what I would say is, did they have a good time? You know what I mean? Like, did they enjoy it? It was pretty good atmosphere. You know, I'm assuming they probably had a pretty good time tailgating. So if they're in the deal for enjoyment, then I would come back, because I looked at the weather. It's going to be nice again. It's a night game. I get they're frustrated that we didn't win. I do get their frustration, but I don't think it's, when you watch our product, I don't think the product is something that they should be, other than the outcome. Like, our kids play hard. That was a really physical football game on Saturday. There's a lot of West Virginia kids out there spilling it out. And so there was clear strength, clear physicality. It was an entertaining football game. If you're a football fan, you're just watching that, it's pretty entertaining. We just didn't play well enough to win. And so I hope with that in mind, they would come back for another entertaining game that hopefully we can play better at the end and win.
He's not wrong. I'm sure it was a fun night. Tailgating is fun. It was an entertaining game. You don't want your head coach talking about, at least you guys had fun. Yeah, the outcome, I mean, I guess that's important to some people, but as we're 3-3 on the season, at least you're having fun, right?
This guy whined the entire game at the referees. Went absolutely ape shit on the sidelines at the referees. It doesn't surprise me at all that he continued to whine in the postgame.
He wasn't having a good time, I guess.
He's trying. This sounds not like a publicly stated message, but for a long time, this was kind of the approach to Cyclone football games. Go tailgate, have a good time. If the weather's nice, it'll be a fun day for you and your family. But you wouldn't hear like Dan McCarney go up to the podium and say that after a loss.
No, you know who gets to say that? The fans that paid the money.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. They get to say that. They get to say, hey, at least I don't feel like I wasted my money. When somebody else tells you you didn't waste your money, and let me tell you why, it doesn't hit the same.
Quickie poll results are presented by WCI Pools and Spas.
This has changed a little bit since the start of the show, but when do polls matter? Always, only at the end of the season, when my team looks good, and never. Only at the end of the season, says, I don't know, all of the Hawkeye fans, I would assume. When my team looks good, these are fans.
Honest answer.
These are fans, I think, that are being honest. Although I think a lot, it's easy. It's easy for Cyclone fans to be honest right now because they're looking good in the polls, and never. I mean, never. They never matter. I mean, like, matter how? Like,
they used to decide the national championship in football.
Yeah, I mean they.
How crazy is that?
In the grand scheme of things, you could argue that they don't really matter. But I mean, do you pay attention to them? If yes, then they matter at least a little bit.
Also, like right now, you've got a 2-loss Michigan team ranked and a 1-loss Arizona State team not ranked, and it's only because of where they started in the rankings. Again, whether or not that means a lot, I don't know, but I'm sure Arizona State would like to be ranked right now.
That's annoying. Yeah, that where they start in the rankings, which is a poll before anybody has even seen these teams play, and now these teams change, like full on, like whole. Washington and Michigan this year are completely different teams. They were just in the national championship game.
Thank you for being part of Murph and Andy on Iowa Everywhere. Please like, subscribe, and review. It helps us out, and we really appreciate it. We're back Friday. We hope you are too.